Hello, welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. My name is Violet Newby. This week we're going to talk about normal growth and development in certain age brackets. That way you will have an understanding of how your child is doing. I want to describe a few things to you from the viewpoint of a nurse or a counselor. There is normal. That means if you take 100 people and look at the general way in which they act or the general way in which they develop, that's called normal. And there are lots of parameters of normal. Then there is average. That's you take those 100 people and you test them in a specific area, and some of them are quite high, some of them are lower, but there is an average. All right. And so we are going to talk about normal growth and development and things you can expect of the average child. So please know that your child may be exceptional in either direction. They may be exceptionally bright, or they may be a little less than, and they may be exceptionally strong physically, or they may be a little less than. But the general parameters will help you to know, is my child developing appropriately? Okay, let's go. By time a child is around a year old, so I'm understanding and you are understanding that somewhere between say 8 months and a year, you will start to see these sorts of things. They should be saying between 1 and 4 words, and those words should include mama and dada. Okay, you should be hearing those words out of your child. Now, some child might start as early as 6 or 7 months, and some of them might not go until 14 months. I'm just telling you that these are things you should be looking for. They should definitely be waving bye bye, maybe even be able to say bye bye. If you tell them, where's the book? Where's the couch? Where's your kitty? They should be able to point those things out. They should have word and object recognition that go together. They should babble. When they're playing, they'll be imitating speech with inflection and sound. If your child isn't babbling at all, not necessarily intelligible words, but you already go up there, then you better have their tongue looked at, because sometimes those issues are with the formation of the mouth, and so their tongue or their palate, or you need to have their hearing tested. Those kinds of things should target you that something isn't quite right. But in general, you're going to hear them babble. And I will tell you that girls tend to form words and boys tend to make sounds. So you will hear girls trying to say specific words, and you'll hear boys going, it's a very different thing in speech patterns with boys and girls. Okay, in terms of motor skills, you'll see them pick up two blocks and bang them together. They'll take their spoon and bang it on their high chair tray. They'll be banging their fists on there. They just like to make noise, and they often do it with their hands or with a couple of objects. They are certainly capable of standing alone, of pulling themselves up, and often you'll see them going around and around the coffee table or up and down the length of the couch. They're standing on their own and they're attempting to get mobile. They're usually going to be able to walk with you holding onto one of their hands. Some children, if they're not that stable, if they were a little bit of a preemie, if they're not quite as strongly muscularly developed, they might need your two hands to walk. But often by time a year to 14 months, they're capable of walking with only one hand being held. You'll see them develop a pincer grip. In other words, they will literally pick up something with their thumb and their forefinger. So you'll see them starting to develop that pincer grip, whether that's when you lay Cheerios or something along their tray, they're going to pick them up like this and start putting them in their mouth. So you should be seeing that. They're going to love to play games. They're going to play peekaboo with you and pat a cake, and this little piggy went to market. And they're going to want this over and over again. And it's because the repetition of sound and the repetition of inflection really aids them in speech. And so they want that. They like to be read to. And I will tell you that when you read a book over and over again with a child, and one of my favorites with my kids and other people's, frankly, is a book called Over in the Meadow. And so I absolutely love that book. Over in the meadow, in the sand, in the sun, lived an old mother turtle and her little turtle one. Dig, said the mother. I dig, said the one. So they dug all day in the sand, in the sun. And that's the book my oldest son actually learned how to read from. He had heard it so often and he started following the words, and I showed him in the And pretty soon he was reading at about 4. So they love to be read to. You should read the same books to them over and over. It's a good thing to read books that have rhyme and books with beautiful illustrations. It's very good for them. You can expect them psychosocially to cry when you leave the room. They feel abandoned and they don't have a sense of permanence, which means when they can't see you, you no longer exist. And that is scary to them. So it is really appropriate for them to cry when you leave the room. Uh, they will feel really proud of themselves when they develop a new skill, and they should. They can follow simple commands. You say, don't touch that. They know how to pull their hand away. You say, pick that toy up. They know how to pick that toy up. They should follow those commands. It's developing their mind, and it lets you know that in terms of communication, they're really understanding you quite clearly. They will imitate your actions. Again, where we've talked about things are caught rather than taught. If you tell them, don't throw your toys, don't bang things, don't break things, but you have a really bad temper and you're acting a fool, hello, they are going to imitate what you do. It is going to happen. Now, let me talk to you about a little bit of progression just for a second. Okay. The baby needs to learn how to turn over somewhere between 4 and 7 months. They're just going to start flipping. They need to learn how to crawl. Some babies don't. Some babies scoot along on their stomach. I had one that did that. They develop certain amounts of motor skill and they develop strength in their arms when they learn how to crawl. So, my child who didn't want to crawl, I literally put him on all fours. And again, I wasn't a nurse. I guess it was instinctive for me. I put him on all fours and I would get right up over top of his little body and I would hold his hands there and I would rock. I would rock my behind and I would rock his. And then I would literally take his little hands and move his hands forward and scoot his legs forward. He did crawl, only about a week or two. It's just a really important developmental stage. I didn't know that as a mom, but it bothered me that my son didn't crawl and I wanted him to. They'll start pulling up. They'll pull up in their crib. They'll pull up on the coffee table. They'll pull up on the couch. And through all of these things, they're strengthening their trunk and their legs and their arms. And then they start going around and around. And pretty soon they let go and they take off. You should see all of those things. In speech and language patterns, part of the difficulty of you being always on your phone or them being stuck in front of a TV set. And yes, I've seen 4 to 6 months old put in a little chair and stuck in front of a TV set. God in heaven help us all. When you are speaking to your child face to face, like when you're feeding them their bottle or when you're nursing them, then they are learning speech. They are learning inflection. They are learning the expression of emotion. You need to be talking to your child. You need to talk to your child a lot. You need to describe what you are doing, what color this is, how this acts, the way that a telephone is, so many things. You need to be communicating with your child because that's how they develop communication skills. And you need to be playing with them so that their musculoskeletal system is developing. Okay, that's up to a year old. Now we're going to talk about up to 2. At 2 years old, a child should be walking on their own. In fact, they may be off running and climbing things, but they should certainly be able to walk alone. Even a preemie by then should be definitely walking. They should pull a toy behind them and push a toy in front of them. They should be able to carry toys with them, maybe even a couple of them while they're walking along. They should certainly be able to stand up on their tiptoes. So when you start doing various kinds of games and playing with them, they should be able to do that. They should be able to kick a ball, perhaps not in a well coordinated manner, but they can do it. They should be able to climb up and down off of furniture. They should be able to climb up. Some of them can climb right into their high chair, certainly climb up on the couch and get themselves back down. They should be able to walk up and down stairs, not just crawl up and down them. And again, that becomes progressive. They crawl up and down them on all fours, then they start kind of getting brave and scare you out of your mind because they're sort of teetering. They need something supporting them, and they can very frequently even come all the way down. A 2 year old should be able to scribble spontaneously, at least draw things on the page, and hopefully not all over the place, but they want to. They really have a desire to. So perhaps give them a bigger piece of paper rather than a little teeny one. Give them a certain amount of fluidity of movement. It's good for them. They can take something and dump it out, and they love doing it. So you give them a little plastic container full of blocks. Bigger blocks are good for them. And they put them in, and then they love pouring them out, and it's a blast. And any mom or dad should know this one. They take something off their tray from their high chair and they throw it down and you pick it up and they throw it down and you pick it up. They love that one. So they love in and out, up and down. Those things are really fun. They can take bigger blocks and build a tower. And of course, they do love to knock it down and they should have the skills that allow them to do that. You'll finally see them start developing a preference for hand often. And if you're one of those people who struggles with a left handed child, like my mom, you can keep redirecting, which I have to tell you that even today, there are certain things I'm very awkward with my right hand about. I was born to be a left handed person, and my mom didn't allow it. But you'll see them start to develop a preference. If you tell them, show me a house, they can paint you a rough one, okay? And if you tell them, where's the neighbor? If you've talked to them sufficiently, they'll say, over there. And they should be able to tell you sentences, at least 3 to 5 word sentences, over there. I want that. I don't like that. If you've talked to them, they should most assuredly have those kind of things. They will recognize familiar people and places and objects. They should know their body parts. If you're telling them, what is this? That's my ear. What is this? That's my nose. What is this? That's my eye. What is this? That's my forehead. You start developing those things with them, and they have a sense of themselves. They know themselves as separate from you, and they can identify those things and often even say those back to you. They can most assuredly, between 18 and 24 months, use a simple phrase: red truck, blue car, my dolly. Yeah, they should definitely be able to. And they should be able to definitely follow instructions, often compound instructions. Take your doll in your room, put her to bed. So they can pick up that doll, walk in their room, and put her in the bed. You need to give them instructions and you need to get them to follow instructions and understand what you want from them. They definitely will repeat what they hear, even if they don't know what it means. So be very, very careful, because otherwise you may hear a lot of things you never meant for them to repeat. They will find something when you hide it. So they love that. You put it in a box, you hide it under the covers, and they'll find the box. But that's not the ball. And they'll know enough to look in there. They can start to do hide and seek kind of things, and that's really fun for them. They can start to see shapes and colors. So if they have a little ball where you put different shapes and colors in, you can say, this is a red triangle. This is a yellow square. This is a green oval. They can start to discriminate those kinds of things. They can certainly start to do make believe. Oh, mommy, I'm nursing my baby. I burp my baby. Rum, rum, my truck fast, my truck strong. Yeah, they'll definitely start to do make believe play. You'll see them imitate, especially adults and older children who are significant to them. So be careful who you expose them to. Make sure that you're being aware of how you act. They're much more aware of themselves as separate from others, and so they will experience a somewhat of a separation anxiety when you're gone. But they find out that they're separate and they can play and they're going to be okay and you're going to come back. They do better with it, so that gets better. They're definitely enthusiastic about being around other kids. Most kids socially are very excited to be with other kids and have the opportunity to play. They might not play well together yet, but they do parallel play. They want to be alongside of someone, have someone else in their space to be around. They will demonstrate independence. I do this. I do this. I do this. They want to try to put on their own clothes. Often by the time they're 2 years old, they're either very interested in potty training or on their way on their own, a lot of them. Oh, I stinky. Well, there's a way to take care of that. You don't have to wear a stinky diaper if you don't mess in your diaper. You can do that in the bathroom. So they're definitely increasing in their independence. And they'll start to be defiant to you, probably somewhere between 15 and 24 months. No, I'm not. I'm not. You'll see them start to exert their will. And you will most assuredly see them, just be pretty okay about doing their own thing. You don't have to do everything for them anymore. And they're okay about that. It's a good thing. Independence is good. All right, so you get this sense that by the time you have a 2 year old, they should pretty much be ready to start functioning on their own in certain ways. I want to reiterate for you. When my sons were little boys, they got to make decisions. They got to choose what they were going to wear. I would put out a couple different outfits for them and they chose. And sometimes they would get dressed and it would be on backwards or it would be a little crazy. And for me, being who I am, I always wanted to change it around and whatever. And then I learned no, that opposes their independence and makes them feel terrible. So what I would do is I would let him stand in front of the mirror and I'd say, "Do you see anything wrong?" And my son would say, "Yes, look at this." And I'd say, "What's the problem?" "Oh, this is supposed to be in the back." "Yes, let's turn that around." So rather than just fixing it like, "Don't you know how to get dressed?" or "What's wrong with you?" let them have the opportunity to learn. So they're going to start to learn and start to develop, start to discriminate. If you aren't seeing a lot of these things happening, then you need to get yourself to a good pediatrician and say, "I'm really concerned because my child, my daughter is 18 months old, but she's not really talking. I'm not sure that she always follows my commands, so I'm unsure if she's hearing me correctly. I just don't really know what's going on, and she doesn't seem to be doing things that I expect her to do. I would like you to assess and help me to know if it's okay." Because the earlier things are caught, then the earlier medical professionals can intervene. But in general, your child is just going to grow along, and one of the great delights of parenthood is watching them grow and develop. There is not a challenge question for you today, per se. Just assess your child. How are they doing? And then ask yourself, how am I doing? Am I talking to my child? Am I playing with my child? Am I reading to my child? Am I doing things that are going to help him or her grow up and develop very strong and healthy? Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.